I'm Tina Lundh. I was auxiliary president in 2022. It was very different than I thought it was going to be. I came in after pandemic started to go away, and we started having our events much like we used to in the past. Full slate of events. We had 13 events, actually 12, one with the joint board, and all of them were planned, and we got to do all of them. So that was a great year for me. During my presidency, people were really excited to get back to normal. Since the pandemic was waning, we got to do all of our events, and people were really excited to come out and party, really. It was a little more challenging to get volunteers because people had their habits after the pandemic, but we managed to make our events really fun and get a lot of new people to come out and volunteer. And I think we didn't have to adapt as much as the previous 2 years. In fact, I started during 2020, so it was a lot of planning and not getting to do anything. So as the leader and the president of the auxiliary, it was really fun to actually get to do the events. And I think that was really, really nice for the club too. I wanted to be president because I have always been a bit of a leader, captain of my crew team in college, skippered my boat by myself, so I'm naturally drawn to leading others. I had several really strong mentors. When I joined the club in 2008, I was asked by Staff Commodore Susie Moore to help with the race council as far as the volunteer coordinator position. Even before I was a member, I was volunteering at the club, and then became really involved with Race Council, was on it for 5 years as volunteer coordinator, did lots of volunteering on the water in addition to that, and then even became a member of the House Committee, and then became a director on the board of directors for one term. Staff Commodore Wendy Miller, she was another example of someone I looked up to because she's been a single mom and she's led the club. 2 really strong women at the club, and there's a lot of other strong women at the club in leadership positions, even on our current board of directors. My fondest memory, that's a tough one. There's so many. My favorite event every year is the auxiliary annual meeting, and a big reason is that we recognize and award all of our awards, including Yachtswoman of the Year. In my tenure, we had come up with a new award. A lot of that was initiated by the sister of the person of the award is named after. The Ann Welch Women's Sailing Award was established in 2022 to honor Ann Welch, who was a past president, Yachtswoman of the Year, who passed away early in 2022. And it was the first time we got to award the recipient, which was fantastic. What does the club mean to me? A lot, actually. It's gotten me through some really tough times and some really happy times. I think, I've celebrated my wedding coming through here, and since I had contributed so much to the race committee, we actually took Victory, the race committee boat, over to the former site of the San Francisco Yacht Club in Sausalito, which was amazing. And then, we've also celebrated the loss of several members of our club, which was really tough. I had lost, along with several other friends and members of the club, people in the low-speed chase tragedy. And I think that was a really good example of the membership coming together to support those family members and loved ones who were lost. So it's through the best of times and the worst of times, it's having your family here to support you. The reason why I started racing it was because I had been an active racer since 2007, even before I joined the club. I got asked to sail with Ann McCormick on my other favorite boat, which is called Shenanigans and Express 27, who's owned by my good friend Bill Moore. I call him my sailing dad, so it was a no-brainer. So we had on that particular first race Ann McCormick, we had Jody McCormick, her daughter-in-law, Vicky Fennell, Michelle Morani, who was my sponsor at the club, and myself, and it was I think a fleet of 7 boats, and it was raced non-spinnaker, and we actually won the regatta, the first inaugural regatta. So that was a nice feather in our cap. I believe since then, my boat, Flashman, partnered with Ashley Perrin, co-skippered with her, I think we won 3 additional times, including this year's race. But yeah, it's a really great event to get women of the club together. It's not intended to be competitive. It's intended to get women out on the water. However, there are many of us who are very active sailors and racers. So the spinnaker division tends to be pretty competitive, but everybody is supposed to come out and join, and it's a really fun event and getting women out there. And it's just amazing that we had, I think, almost 70-something women out on the water the first one, and maybe not that high, maybe about 50 this past one. But this year was great because I even got my daughter out on the water with me, which was amazing, pretty nice. Dreamboat started as a result of our member, Sissy Corain. She and her husband owned a bird boat, and after he passed, she was still very active in the club and the membership, and she started it. I think she also began Sea Gals, which was getting women out on the water in a non-racing format, cruising, having lunch, just camaraderie, which is also a big part of the Auxiliary Cup. But she started that, and some of the most prestigious and well-known boats at the club, Yucca at the time, Q, I believe Pat Pending, were all boats that had participated in Dreamboats. Hank Easom and others were asked to take their boats out and host the membership of the club, not just women specifically, but members of the club got to go out on a little cruise with those particular members. Really fun for camaraderie out on the water. In fact, I believe Hank and Glenn Isaacson were recognized by the Auxiliary with a Special Service Award because they did it so frequently. My hope is that the Auxiliary continues much as it has in the past and through today. We've already had 70 years behind us. And originally it started because women couldn't be members. Women didn't have their own group at the club. So that it started, I believe, in 1958. It's just a really great organization that requires hundreds and hundreds of hours of effort. I believe back in my term, we had over 1,300 volunteer hours, which is probably underestimating the amount of time that was spent planning events, executing the events, organizing things, and just getting everything ready, and recruiting, really. I mean, one of the biggest things I kind of said to my group was get other people involved, because you want people behind you coming through and running these same events. And it's a really fun way to meet other members and contribute to the club, because this is primarily volunteers with some paid staff, but what you put into the events is what you get out of them, and what you put into your club is what you get out of it. And I think, at least for me, I have made some really strong relationships from the start, friendships, almost like a familial type atmosphere because of all the people I've met through volunteering at the club. And I hope that continues another 70 years for everybody else. Not everyone's gonna like you, and that's okay. I mean, as a leader, you really kind of have to make tough decisions at times and be super, super organized And it was a lot. It's a really big job, and it's almost like having a job on top of a job that you get paid for. Luckily, I've had lots of great mentors and a lot of great organization prior to coming on board. We have probably the best document retention process. Each president has kept a binder of their events and their communications, as well as their flyers, and all that was uploaded to a Dropbox that Stephanie Portillo created during her term. That was really important to me to continue that, so we have the records ready to go, and now we've migrated that over to the OneDrive, I understand, this year, so that's been a big club initiative. But as far as personal growth, I think, I definitely love coaching people, and there's different ways to do it, and I've found some ways that work and what doesn't work, but it's been really rewarding to be able to give back to the club and lead others and contribute. I think the auxiliary's mission to promote women in sailing is great because women are underrepresented in higher levels of sailing, and the only way to get more women into sailing is to start them early. We have a really strong program here in the summer sailing camp. My daughter's participated in that, and she's gotten some exposure prior to that, going out with me and going out with friends on the water. But yeah, if we don't promote it from within and get women involved and show that that's, an activity that they can do. I didn't grow up sailing. I happened to like the water. I rowed in college, and then a friend asked me on a Friday night to come over and start sailing, and I thought, why would I leave San Francisco on a Friday night? And I finally did and realized what I was missing, and it was hook, line, and sinker. I just love sailing to pieces, and I really hope that enthusiasm rubs off on other people. Try to get people out sailing on my boat. I have smaller boats, so that's not always possible to do, but I talk to other people about it. I try to encourage other people. We have the RS-21s that the auxiliary's been funding through grants. The past several years, we've given money towards that, and that's another opportunity to get younger people out on the water. Again, as I started sailing as an adult, I'm probably not going to race really high level, but I have friends that do. But it's a lot of fun. It's not like any other sport that's out there. You really have to interpret the weather, you have to interpret data, and then, figure out where you're going and avoid ships and all that stuff. So you really have to pay attention. So it's everyone can have something to do out there on the water, and it's just a really fun sport, and I love it. I would highly recommend joining the auxiliary. I've said that, I think, almost every single bulletin article I wrote last year, and probably Bow Waves too is calling for all volunteers, and you can be super creative. You can be more on the sporty side. As a sailor, we have a really diverse group of women, I think, on the board. I tended to think at first, when I first joined, why would I join the auxiliary? And then I realized it's a great creative outlet. And then you can also be highly organized. You can also participate in decorating. You could organize a regatta. There's a lot of variety, I think, within the auxiliary you don't have to be one particular type of person. Like, I kind of thought when I first started looking at the auxiliary, is it all the social people, the party planners? And that perception is completely gone, and I think I recruited a lot of people during my tenure, since we had a lot of new people that we had to put on or appoint to the auxiliary board. We got a lot of diversity going as far as people's sailing background or party planning skill backgrounds. We have a lot of diversity of our members, even age-wise. We have younger people, we have older people, we have a lot of different groups represented.